Hey podcast listener, this is the THC Foodie, where you can get the scoop on the business of THC-infused foods. If you'd like to learn more about what we do, check out the THCfoodie.com and icecreamprivatelabel.com. You've been waiting for this to happen for a really long time.
I have. The cannabis industry has been on my radar probably since I was 15. That's probably not good to admit. But once I did become a chef in the early 2000s, 2003, I had family members and a really close friend where I was able to experiment, working with cannabis. And then I found that I had skill at it and was making things that people weren't making back then on a regular basis, like caramels. Like, people never wanted to make caramels. And they're easy to transport, and they didn't spoil. So I tried to focus on things like that and made like lollipops and things. And the next thing I knew, I was selling to the clubs. But the thing that was scary back then, as opposed to now, is you could get popped for manufacturing and get, 20, 25 years in jail for walking in with a box of brownies. And then you walk out from the club, with your gangster role. So either way, a cop is going to get in your face if they want to. And I, thank goodness, I'm still here and never had to, be baking brownies in jail, which could have been a whole other business, but not really what I was looking for. So now it's exciting. I can't wait till next year for California.
Were you in California at that time when you started?
Yes, it was right when I started culinary school as well. And I remember I used to ask the teachers all these questions, and they'd just be like, "What on earth are you making when you're not in school, Sandra?" And I'm like, "Oh, stuff. Just practicing what I'm learning in class, just with cannabis." And they just laugh, And I probably shouldn't admit it, but since the Cordon Bleu school in Pasadena is closed, I used to bring the chefs of mine brownies all the time. I'm not sure it helped with my grade, but, although I did get good grades. I tried really hard and I was really good. I don't want to imply anything.
So tell me, since the inception, so when you started till now, how has your cooking changed and how has the industry changed?
Wow, I would say that it wasn't even really, in my mind, really an industry back then. It was just people like going, cool, I'm going to make some edibles and see if I can make some money and, hope I don't get caught, to now, where I just moved back from in Nevada, where every single thing is laboratory tested. Every product has to have the same dosing. Everything has to have all the ingredients, the nutritional values. There's so much now that's going into it, especially if the government gets, involved behind us and the health departments. We're literally going to have, Serve Safe and food safety, probably some of our next editions that will have cannabis information in there, because it's going to be, applicable, which will be amazing when you really think about how far they've come from like 2003 to maybe 2018. That is, even though for us cannabis users and people that want to produce it and the medical field, even though it seems like it's taken forever, really, if you look in the big picture, that's like bingo, and it's approved, really, when you think about it. When you look at how many other things have not gone that path. And hopefully all the other states and the government will catch on, because think about all the money that can be made, like all the school programs, the medical programs. I mean, I guess the list can go on, because the drug's not going to go away, right?
And then once it goes live, it's live.
It's live. I think it's going to be just the business world for this industry. There's a million things. Phone apps, cooking items, paraphernalia, merchandise for cooking. How like you go into Williams-Sonoma, God, they're going to hate me. But maybe they'll be the first ones. And you get those little spatulas with the little bees and all the cool stuff on them. Maybe you can get, marijuana leaf spatulas now. I know I'd buy one. I think there's just so many opportunities. Look at what we're doing. Podcasts, TV shows, Bong Appetite, is on. There's where you've got shows just about people cooking with cannabis. And it's really show. It's not just a parody. So I think the industry has gone from, brown bag to, Silicon Valley almost, because you're really going to just see anything available, is my opinion.
One of the things that that I look forward to is right now the channel for this is through dispensaries. So when it gets to that point you're talking about, we're now, such as nursing homes, retirement centers, where these folks need some assistance, comfort, whatever, they could now sell directly to them and utilize it there, may it be pastries or candies or ice cream or a beverage, whatever. So that's the other side of that I look forward to when the channel starts opening up, where the manufacturers can sell direct to specific institutions other than dispensaries.
Absolutely. They're going to even have necessities where you're going to have to go through distributors, just like just like regular food, food industry channels. They're already working on that. There's going to be, health inspections going into the dispensaries to check their products. They may not even allow them to have refrigerated products. They're so concerned. I hope they don't do that, because I think, it's still just food, that we should be able to manage it properly. But I agree with you. I think nursing homes and stuff, as you mentioned, would be a rockin' place if we were able to get, cannabis like maple ice cream or something. I could deal with that if I was an old person. And then you go and you watch Cocoon and everything's all good.
I want to, I've mentioned this before on a couple of shows, and I'm happy to hear you talk about food safety. And in the ice cream I helped somebody in Oregon open up a small manufacturing facility for THC infused ice cream, and so there was licensing and all of these things. One of my issues from a manufacturing perspective, conventional products, is the fact that it might be changing, but a few years back it was very much a cottage industry. People thought that they could make these items in their kitchen and go and sell to mainstream. And I'm thinking, if somebody doesn't have a bad experience from the THC product, they may have a bad experience with food poisoning and correlating it to,
Absolutely.
And so I am a big advocate for food safety, talking about cross-contamination, talking about the difference between sanitation and cleanliness. And I think a lot of people shake their heads, but I don't think a lot of people get it. Because in this business, people don't care of the mechanism. They're interested in being in the THC infused business, in my opinion.
Yes. And I can definitely make some comments on that, but I'm going to elaborate on when you call this a cottage industry. I have my own term for it. I basically feel that right now, all of us in this industry are cowboys. We are really attacking the wild, wild west. So I call it a cowboy industry, because it is just kind of every man for himself until they get this thing regulated. Because that's kind of I feel like what I am, kind of a cowboy. We're just making it happen. And you are absolutely right about the food safety, because the really frightening thing was, the reason I did so well back in the old day is I would show up and I had a portfolio with me of my work, and I had my Serve Safe, and I had my Le Cordon Bleu, and I had letters of reference, and I had a lot of things, and I would walk in the door with that and my samples, and they would be like, no problem. And the thing that was still hard was, even with all my training, I was making this out of my home. And I wasn't using distillates or concentrates or things that would have made making edibles a lot easier, because at the time that would have been very expensive, and I didn't really know sophisticated growers. They were dudes growing stuff, guys growing stuff in their closets, and hoping their moms don't find out half the time, right? And it's some 25-year-old vidiot kid, and it's still living at home, for the most part, selling weed. What I, would find crazy is I'd be in my apartment, out in Warner Center with 3 crock pots going of, butter, and thinking my upstairs 2 little old lady sister, neighbors have got to be in comas, because they are smelling this, all night long as I'm in there baking butter for, the week. And I had animals, I had cats, and even though I, would put them away and I would vacuum everywhere, I even had plastic covering from my kitchen to my dining room that I put up just to try to be as conscientious as I could be, not to have cat hair anywhere, or gloves, just behave just like I did. But it freaked me out because I know people found stuff in my food. I know they would find a cat hair. They couldn't have. You can go into a vacuum and walk out and you still have cat hair on you. So it's scary. It really is. And I was, technically not regulated, but certainly monitoring myself. When we go recreational, that just doesn't mean that everybody's running around smoking pot. That still means that you've got your terminally ill patients, your chemotherapy patients, immune deficient patients, HIV, all of that. And if you're not taking care of food safety, how horrible is it going to be that someone goes and gets, an edible because they're in pain and they end up dying from food poisoning because their system is so compromised from one brownie? That will happen if they don't regulate this. That's why Nevada, I was so impressed with the system there. And I know that's happening in pretty much all the states. I know California really is going to be coming down on it once the health department gets involved. And I'm as terrible as we all say the health department is and gets in our way and all of that. I am so happy to see that. I thank them tremendously because I think it's going to save people a lot of problems in the future.
It's also going to open up an industry for folks like you that now, at some point, open up a kitchen and become a co-pack manufacturer for all of these people that have a concept and a product and the money, but they don't know the first thing, A, about manufacturing, B, they don't know about what a clean facility is. A bona fide licensed manufacturing facility for consumable goods, infused products.
There's very few kitchens. Like right now, the kitchen that I work out of is 55 miles away from me.
And think about it. You wouldn't have me coming in making my brownies. I would contract you to follow my recipe.
Yeah.
You would already know the milligrams per serving, and it goes on, and you would have the facility mechanism. So right there is an industry. That's one thing that
people are hiring me for. Like a freelance, they call me up, they give me their recipe. I work out the formula depending on what they're looking for, or they already have their own distillate, and then we just work out the grams and the dosage. And I make they've got their own packaging. I've got people from Canada. The company that I'm working with right now is from Canada, and they're working on licensing here in the States. So they were very excited to be able to contact, and get their hands on someone like me who does have the proper training. They're not looking to have, Cindy down the street who likes to bake pot brownies help them. They're tech guys from Canada. They've got money, they've got investors, and the packaging is amazing, and they're ready to go. And they're selling to online companies like ease.com, where there's, unbelievable amount of followers and, connections already, going after dispensary groups. There's people that own 6, 7, 8, 10 dispensaries. You get your edibles, or your product in one of those, and you don't really need 50 dispensaries. You might need 5 or 10 to get started. And there's a lot of ways to, I think, build the business with these things.
Do you have a product or business you want to share? We want to know what you have to say. Leave us a comment on our website at thethhcfoodie.com or on Twitter at SafeTHCFoods.